Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to our Gardening Unplugged this morning, where we're going to talk about pitcher plants, the genus Sarracenia. So for those who have not tried to grow them or don't know much about them, Sarracenias are primarily southeast U.S. natives. There used to be a large bog over in West Raleigh, actually right where the J.C. Raulston Arboretum is now, where they grew naturally, 3 species. People don't realize that they were native right here in the Raleigh area. They go all the way down to the coast, they go all the way down to the Gulf Coast, and one species, Sarracenia purpurea, which is the shortest of all, I don't see one in here right now, that goes all the way up into Canada. So that's native all the way up Minnesota, Canada, so that's the hardiest of all. Most of what we grow and see are hybrids, because in the wild they actually do hybridize, and so there have been many wonderful name forms. So typically they are what we call semi-evergreen. So if you had not cut it back, which we do, this is what you would have right now. This is the last year's pitchers. So we go in and in late March, mid to late March, and cut them to the ground, because these are not really going to do you any good anymore. And we want to not obscure the flowers. So these are the blooms which you're seeing right now. And the blooms you'll see a lot more as we walk around today range from whites to yellows to reds to pinks and every combination thereof. I think the blooms are absolutely amazing. So the flowers, and then what will happen, these petals will drop off when it finishes, and it will be left with a little cup. And when the seed are ripe, the seed are actually right here in the center. You see the flowers? Those are the anthers. So you can have fun with breeding these things. Oh my goodness, they're just pollen everywhere in there. They'll actually drop the seed right into the cup. Sarracenias are very easy to grow in the right conditions. They like moist toes but dry ankles. Very important. Do not keep their ankles wet. If you do, you will kill them. Their ankles are right here. This is the ground. When I first tried them 40 years ago, I killed every one I planted because I thought they needed a bog. They do not need a bog. We've got them, you'll see them growing all through the gardens. Anywhere we have a damp spot in the garden, they're absolutely fine. They do not need a liner. They don't need a bog. That's just an easy way to grow them. But a lot of people grow them in containers as well as in the ground, which works out great as long as whatever your level of soil is, you need to drill a hole about an inch below that so that it keeps their ankles dry. If you do not, they will die. They cannot. That's the big key for growing Sarracenias. They will grow in a range of different soils, but they are best in straight peat moss. Nothing but peat moss. Some people do half peat moss, half sand. That'll work, but I don't know why you would want to go to make things more complicated than you need to. Peat moss straight in there, drill the holes about an inch below the top, fill it full of water and plant. That's it. They need full sun. They are not shade plants. They will persist for years in light shade, but you will not see a flower, and they will go backwards and eventually die. They're not a plant that likes competition. So where you plant them, they need to be out, because if other things grow up around them, that keeps them from getting light. Now, once the flowers fade, the new pitchers form. They've already started, as you can see here. Some pitchers get 6 inches tall, some get as much as 3 feet tall, depending on the variety. You'll see a lot of people talk about, well, they can't tolerate any fertilizer. If you fertilize them, they die. Not true. There's a lot of myths out there. They absolutely can take fertilizer. I would recommend using organic fertilizer. If you get in and do full strength Miracle-Gro, yes, you can burn them. So if you use a liquid feed, make something very dilute. They typically feed themselves. So each pitcher produces it turns out recent research has shown it produces an intoxicating chemical. So when the insects come in there, they feed there and they get drunk and they fall in the tubes. We didn't know that, but we do now. And in the tubes, they have tiny little hairs that keep the insects from crawling back out. So once they fall in, they die, and then the pitchers, which normally grow on very depauperate soils with no nutrition, they basically dissolve the insect, and all its nutrients are what feeds the plant. So that's how they get their nutrition. Now they've got it figured out. They evolved because they need to reproduce from seed. So they have evolved to have a different kind of insects pollinate the plant as opposed to what it eats. See, it wouldn't make sense if you were killing all your pollinators. You would sort of make sure you didn't have a very long lifespan. But they're incredibly easy to grow. Like I say, in the ground, in containers. Here what we did, we came in and we lined this with a rubber liner, and we said, we got plastic on the greenhouses. So what's going to come off? Water. So we put it in the low area so the water runs off the greenhouse and fills this. We also came in up at the top and we tied onto our well, and we put a little pipe that drips water. We put a valve and we've turned it way down, so we have 2 seeps. So those constantly run 365 days a year. Not that you'll ever see it, you'll just see it's wet. And that makes sure we have the constant moisture that they need at their toes. So again, and if you come back for summer open house, the flowers, you'll see remnants of the flowers, but the pitchers are what really grow up and look amazing. And they're just beginning. You can see the variants. Some are already in flower, some are flowering later. All depends on the species involved. Now in North Carolina, we have primarily Sarracenia flava, which is a giant one. Flava means yellow, and that gets generally in the 2-foot range. We also have Sarracenia rubra, which is one of the smallest. That has tiny little pitchers, and named obviously because they're red. And then Sarracenia purpurea, which is our other one, which is the same one that grows, just a different form of it, all the way up into Canada. And in the wild, if you go down, now you'll have to go down to the coast to see these. Green swamp area is amazing. There's some wonderful pitcher plant reservoirs. Propagating pitcher plants is actually very easy. You can do a couple of things. You can divide them, but what we also found, and let's see if I can show you one here today. Okay, you can take cuttings like that, and I would just cut that off and that will grow. So that's all you need. You just stick that as though you would a cutting on an impatiens, and it'll grow really easy. So you can propagate. You could have easily 50, maybe even 100 if you were really good, like that. You can actually cut this down. Oops, excuse me. Even more. You can actually go down and make 2 cuttings out of this. Yep. See, each of those will grow.
And you just pop
So.
that right back into that.
Yep, pop it back in the ground. You can put it in a pot. You want to be sure you keep it moist. So we do ours in containers, so we would put these both in cell packs. But they're really easy. I think people often think, well, they're mysterious, they're hard to grow, they're hard to propagate, and nothing could be further from the truth. Again, long as you got the moist toes and dry ankles. So let's look, just go a few feet down here. Let's walk down here and we'll look at another batch of them. So you can see the diversity of the colors. Now this is the Gulf Coast pitcher. This is called the white top pitcher. This has really beautiful pitchers that come out bright white. And every now and then in the wild, you get what's called an anthocyanin-free form. Anthocyanin is the red pigment. So this is a anthocyanin-free. This has no pigment. Normal white top pitcher has bright red flowers. But this one just genetically didn't get any anthocyanin, so it produces yellow flowers. So they're really amazing plants. Now here's a hybrid. This is Leah Wilkerson. And this one produces pitchers and flowers at the same time. See, most of them, the pitchers are still small. This one has actually gone ahead and expanded. Commercially, they're all produced in tissue culture, primarily. A few from seed and a few from divisions. We do most of ours from divisions. But commercially, these are produced as cut flowers by the hundreds of thousands, especially in Europe. Their entire companies, and that's all they do, is sell cut pitchers for flower arrangements because they last really long in the flowers. Now, each pitcher is going to last until it gets full of insects. Once it gets full of insects, it will just gradually fall over, and then a new pitcher will come up to take its place. So we're constantly
collecting ants?
No, actually, it's primarily flying insects, wasps, bees, flies. You can come out here in the late spring and summer when you really have a lot of insects and sit here and watch. And it is amazing to watch them, just one right after another. They come up on the edge, they'll get sort of drunk, and then in they go. It's really, and it's a great thing for kids. It's just great entertainment. They are not good plants inside the house. They're great to take in for a party for the day. Bring them back outside. There just simply is not enough light. When you're out on a day like today, there's probably 5,000 foot candles of light here. On a bright day, there could be as much as 10,000. You go inside on a kitchen table, you've got 10. So 10 is compared to 10,000, they're just not going to last. So a lot of people try to keep them indoors. They also, most of them, require a winter dormancy. They have to get cold in the wintertime. So people put them in warm greenhouses. They don't really like that. They like in the wintertime to freeze. So get them down around freezing, and then they come back up and they have great vigor in spring.
What would be a minimum of that 10,000 hours?
Again, there's a difference between growing and thriving. To thrive, they really need, I'd say, 4 to 6 hours of full sun a day. Anything less than that, you're not going to thrive. You can look at our garden in the front section out here where they probably get 2 to 4 hours. And we'll get an occasional flower and a few pitchers, but nothing like out here where they just bake. They are plants that they need as much sun as a cactus. They just need moist toes, which the cactus doesn't. And that's really the mistake people make, is they either keep them too wet, they keep them too dry. Now, the surface can be bone dry. If you go into a pitcher plant bog in the summertime and you step on it, you'd swear you were in the desert. But if you went down 6 inches, it's moist. And that's the key. So that's with our liner. So where we do it in the ground, we have the liner ends at 1 to 2 inches below what you see here. So here's our soil level. That liner ends an inch or two below that. So when it rains in here, that water has a way to escape so the ankles don't stay wet. Now, it could be submerged for a week or two. That's not a problem. It's long term. It's just how we kill them. Any questions? Any other questions?
What's the name of the
right here? This is Sarracenia leucophylla, and this is a cultivar called Unstained Glass. Yeah, I think that's pretty spectacular. But the range of flower colors is just absolutely amazing. And they're fairly easy to grow from seed. If you decide you want to grow them from seed, once the seed is ripe, and that's going to be late summer, and like I say, you'll actually, all this stuff will drop off and you'll see a little one is. Sow those on a pot of potting soil and then seal them up in a Ziploc bag. And just wait for them to come up. And then you'll see these little miniature pitchers just start popping up.
They don't have to be stratified?
No, they don't for seed. We've tried them both ways, and honestly, we can't see any difference. You would think with a plant that does have a winter chill that they would require stratification, but we just simply don't see that. Other questions?
What's growing on?
Right here.
With this spur on it.
This is a jack-in-the-pulpit.
It's a jack-in-the-pulpit.
Yeah, so we thought it was sort of neat to have pitcher plants and jack-in-the-pulpits because they both have sort of a weird pulpit. So completely unrelated. These are in the family that has philodendrons and anthuriums and crazy stuff like that. Now, they would die down in here, but we have them up here raised just a little bit, and they do absolutely fine. Now, if you wanted to plant some jack-in-the-pulpits to do down here, use our native Sarracenia triphyllum. That would live in exactly the same conditions as the pitcher plants. Just prefers a little more shade. This could get a little sunny, but you can have it up underneath here, and it would actually do fine there. Other questions?
One other thing,
Yeah.
somewhere about watering them, don't
Yeah.
use like
Yes.
chlorinated water. Does it really make any kind of difference?
Yeah, great question. People will say use distilled water, don't use chlorinated water. Most chlorinated water is going to be fine. You will start noticing, if you see your plant going backwards or the leaves or these are modified leaves burning a little bit, then that tells you the chlorine in your area might be a little strong. There are chlorine in some regions, yes, that is way too strong for it. But typically in this area, we have not seen an issue. We use well water on ours just because we don't have any chlorinated water. But that's the same. The chlorine is the same as fertilizers. It's the salts that are the problem. So a little bit is fine, a lot is not. So that's why when you read things on the internet, they try to say, well, they don't want anybody to ever say you caused me to make a mistake. So they say things that are at one complete extreme. And the reality is nothing in nature really deals in extremes. It deals in gray. So it's just understanding why. They'll do fine in containers, in ceramic containers. They'll do fine in plastic containers, as long as you, again, bottom can be sealed, as long as you got a way for the water to escape about an inch below the soil surface. That is the key.
Someone told me if you draw the water and let it sit for 24 hours, even if there's chlorine in it, it's fine.
Yeah, that will absolutely allow it to evaporate. Absolutely.
And I'm sorry, I missed the beginning.
Yeah.
So in a container,
Yes.
you need to, you said, have an inch below the surface. So what do
You-
you put rocks or something so that?
No, you want it water. You want soil or whatever your media. We recommend peat moss all the way to the bottom. You just want to be sure that wherever your soil level is, that you have holes in the side an inch below
Okay.
the soil level, because the water needs to be at the bottom of the roots. Yes,
Below the top.
inch below the top of the soil. So if your container soil level is here, even if your container comes here, your hole needs to be 1 inch below the soil level. Yep, because you got to be able, again, dry ankles, moist toes. As long as you do that and give it plenty of sun, you will have success. They're just really one of the easiest plants you can possibly grow.
Tony, may I share a story?
Please.
I'm a volunteer here at the garden, and I was out with the chief horticulturist, Amanda Wilkins, one day, and we accidentally broke one of the pitchers off. And she says, well, we'll make this a learning experience. So she had a knife with her, and she, starting at the bottom of the pitcher, she slit up towards the top. Well, down at the bottom was a pretty fully digested insect. A little bit farther up was a little bit less digested insect. Third one was pretty good shape. I think we did 2 more. She finally got to the top, and it flew away. So there were 5 insects all lined up in different degrees of digestive state. Pretty interesting.
Yeah, they're fascinating plants. To think that something evolved and it said, I'm stuck here in some really nutrient poor soils. I've got to figure out a way to survive. And it came up with the idea of intoxifying the insects and attracting them in and then digesting them. That's pretty cool stuff, especially for a plant native to the southeast U.S.
Okay, the inevitable question. Which is your favorite?
The one I'm standing beside, they're all, really incredible. There are people who collect these, and we ordered a shipment in about 2 years ago. There's a nursery in England that exhibits every year in Chelsea, and they are willing to ship across the pond, and we got in a shipment of a bunch of English ones. There's a lot of hybridization done in Holland, again, for cut flowers. and we're gradually able to get some of those in. So it's pretty neat. The only thing I would say is you don't want to go digging them out of the wild. Just, get some that are propagated. I have no problem if you go in the wild and you're in an area where you can take a cutting just like I showed, but leave the plant there. So that's the neat thing about understanding propagation is you don't have to take the whole plant. All you need is a cutting. And that's the beauty of horticulture is we can go out and find a special form, take a cutting, the original plant's still there. Other questions?
And you said you cut them down to the ground and
No, we do it in early spring, so about 3 weeks ago.
okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
before the flowers start to come out. So if you do it mid-March, you're going to be good to go. And that because the pictures stay looking fairly good through the winter. It's just late winter, January, February, they sort of start to fall apart. And at that time, you're not losing any value by going ahead and cutting those back.
So
Yeah.
these have grown up that much?
Oh yeah, just in this has really happened in the last 10 days. Yeah, if you were here 10 days ago, there wasn't a flower in here. No, when they pop, they it's like a volcano exploding. It's pretty neat.
I
Yeah.
killed one this winter,
Okay. Okay.
but it didn't look anything. I was very surprised. Excuse me.
Uh-huh.
everybody. When I got here that they look like this, I was expecting something totally different.
Ah.
It was, and I understand maybe it's early with the flowers, but it was all green, and then the pictures were a reddish color that were hanging off of it. So totally different than this. What were?
Now, did you get a Sarracenia or one of the tropical pitcher plants?
I don't know.
Okay, and the pitcher was hanging off the plant? Okay, what you had was a tropical, that's called Nepenthes.
Okay.
It's a different animal altogether. Those grow in the tropics. And those, if you get those below 60 degrees, they're probably dead.
So I was told, I bought it at the farmer's
Okay.
market.
Okay,
I
sure.
was told that it was native to North Carolina, and he told me that, yeah.
Do you have a picture of it?
I can find a picture of it.
If you can find a picture, then we can tell you,
Excuse me.
because the tropical ones have the pictures hanging off. The native ones all look like this.
Yeah, nothing like this. He said that just to move it into the garage if it got below 30 degrees. And that's what I did. It stayed green until right up to the end, then it all went brown. And
Now, okay, yeah, I mean, that could be a native one. I'd have to look at the picture and
see
see.
if I can find it.
But if you moved it into the garage, the key is you must still keep it moist.
I might have let it get in the garage, out of sight, out of mind.
That's
So
what
I think
it-
I let it get too dry.
That's
but
what it sounds like. So
Yeah.
when you move it into the garage, put it in a tray of water
Okay.
and leave it. That again, if you got a pot, you can have the tray 2 inches, and that way you won't have to go out there every, maybe once a month. You'll be fine.
Okay.
But it sounds like to me that it was fine when you moved it in, and it just got too dry. Yeah, if he said it was fine till you got 30 degrees, then you did have a native one.
Okay.
Yeah, the tropical ones are amazing. They're actually fairly easy to grow. Put them in hanging baskets. No, that's tropical.
So you told me a story, huh?
If it looked like that,
looked
that's
exactly
tropical.
like that.
No, that's tropical. That's very tropical.
Exactly.
Okay, no, that sounded like it when you were describing it. No, that's definitely tropical. I would not say anything below 55 to 60 on that one. Different animal. Whoops.
Glad I came here today.
Whoops.
I
Okay.
wanted another one, but I figured I'd try and figure out what I did wrong.
That's the most important thing. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with killing things as long as you learn something each time you do it. And that's why we know so much. We've killed a lot of plants here. But now we figured out the key to success, and really it's quite simple.
So these can grow in containers.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you have to move them in, or you don't move them in at all.
For these, they're going to be fine outdoors. If you drop below 20, I would probably bring them in for the night.
This winter was weird.
Yeah.
I've been here 4 years. First time I wore a coat this year. So
Yeah,
it's cold.
we've had 3 unusually mild winters in a row prior to this. This year was still unusually mild. This year we were We dropped to 16. Our average normal here is 5 to 10.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, our coldest was 1984. We hit -9
Oh my!
below
You
zero.
might as well have stayed in New York.
Well,
Another story somebody told me.
yeah, we do get cold here. We just don't get cold as often as you do up north.
I was not liking this winter.
Yes. Oh no, this was still very mild for us.
Okay.
But yes, these are fine. But anything below 20, if it's in a container, you do want to bring it in for the night.
Okay.
Oh, really? So if you
Yeah.
plant these in a container, you
Yeah.
have to bring them in?
If it's below 20.
Like that 18.
So this year we had one night you would have had to bring them in.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, if you have a big enough container, you can leave them out. The key is roots of plants are designed to be insulated. In the ground, you have the heat from the ground. In a pot, you have the air that gets cold. But if your pot's big enough, then the plant's fine. So the plant itself is completely hardy. It's just how much insulation. So what some people will do, if they have small things, is just wrap a piece of insulation for the winter around the plant. Then it's fine. So there's certainly options to do, or get some pieces of styrofoam and put them around. But it's just understanding that roots are designed to be in the ground.
Has anybody invented a pot that has insulation?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can find them online. Just search for insulated pots. People have invented damn near everything.
But then you have to put holes in them.
No. Well, yes, you would have to have the hole, yes, across that. So for the winter, you might want to. One hole's probably not going to be a problem for winter temperatures.
So you don't have to make the holes all the way around.
You just need one or two so that water can get out. You just need to be sure it does. You just want to be sure you're not drowned in your plant. That's it.
Okay. Would you recommend starting in a really big container then, or?
Yes, the bigger the container, the happier the plant's going to be.
Oh, I got a huge one that I can fill up.
It's fantastic. As long as you drill a couple holes in there, you are good to go.
And I can drill into it.
Yeah,
Very good.
yep. And remember, straight peat moss is ideal. That is the best. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank y'all very much.
Here you go.
Well, y'all can keep that.
Thank you.
Yeah.